We are back with a brand new video. What is good, Heat Nation? In today's video, we're going to be talking about which player the Miami Heat should target first, Donovan Mitchell or Kevin Durant. So make sure you guys stay tuned till the end of the video. Drop a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Thank you all for 2,000 subscribers, man. You guys are the absolute goats, man. Like, you guys mean a lot to me. That you guys are the reason why I keep making videos and stuff, because you guys just show a lot of love and stuff, and it's especially like over the last couple of weeks, like you guys have been going crazy. So keep doing what you guys have been doing, man. Shout out to everyone who's been showing love on the Twitter as well. Just hit 100 followers on that. We've been going live with these spaces like every couple of days. So if you guys are, if you guys are new, you want to follow my Twitter, just to chop it up and talk Heat basketball, please go follow it. The link will be in the description, and go hit up my second channel as well. Just dropped a video on there a couple of days ago. So yeah, let's get right into it without further ado, because we do have a lot to talk about. Starting off with Donovan Mitchell, because a report came out yesterday from Woj saying that after several weeks or several days of the Jazz basically saying that they had no intentions of trading Donovan Mitchell, they are now listening to offers for trades for Donovan Mitchell, and essentially he's not fully on the market, but they're opening up the Donovan Mitchell sweepstakes now. They, according to a lot of Jazz reporters and Woj, the Jazz will probably be reluctant to trade away Donovan Mitchell, but it is something that they are considering, and the offer would have to be something that would blow them away in order for that for Donovan Mitchell to leave or get traded away from the Jazz. So that is basically the Donovan Mitchell news that has come out over the past day. Now since then, there's been a lot of rumors, reports. The two teams that have been at the forefront of all the Donovan Mitchell reports are the Heat and the Knicks, and I'm going to go through both of those teams and talk about which team has the better chance, what team could have the better package, and where I ultimately think Donovan Mitchell could land up. Now, I do think it's going to be between one of those two teams. I would not be surprised if the Jazz just ultimately say we're going to keep him around, because he hasn't essentially asked for a trade yet. They're kind of just seeing what he's worth on the open market, just trying to figure out his trade value and stuff like that. And maybe they're listening into trades and stuff, but that doesn't mean they have to 100% trade him. But I think if it is a possibility that they do trade him, I think it's between two teams, like I said, the Heat and the Knicks. I think those are the two main teams that are front runners for Donovan Mitchell at the moment. Now, coming to the New York Knicks, because I do want to talk about them a little bit first. Donovan Mitchell, obviously, has been a big staple as far as growing up in New York. His dad worked for the Mets. He loves New York. Obviously, he loves that city because that's where he's from. And the Knicks have been linked to Donovan Mitchell for quite a while now. And it was reported by Greg Sylvander I think last year, saying that if it's a possibility that Donovan Mitchell asks out for a trade, the Knicks and the Heat would be the number one and the number two options in no particular order. So yeah, I do think that the Knicks have a realistic chance to get Donovan Mitchell. Now, it just came out today that the Knicks are reportedly putting RJ Barrett off of any sort of trades. They're not interested in trading RJ Barrett, and that is a big piece for the New York Knicks. He's probably their franchise cornerstone for the future, and I could agree with that, because you want to bring Donovan Mitchell to pair up alongside RJ Barrett. You don't want to trade RJ Barrett for Donovan Mitchell. So I can see why they would keep Donovan Mitchell in any sort of trade scenario. They would want to keep RJ Barrett, sorry, not Donovan Mitchell, RJ Barrett in a Donovan Mitchell trade scenario. But I think the thing that the New York Knicks have that a lot of teams don't, including the Miami Heat, is the fact that they have the ability to throw in 8 first-round picks. Now, a lot of those picks are not their own, but they still have a ton of first-round picks that they can potentially throw in a Donovan Mitchell trade. And that is the one thing that they have over the Heat is draft capital. And I think Utah has really valued draft capital, especially in the Gobert trade. They asked for 5 first-round picks and they got it. So I think draft capital is very important to Utah, and I think that's where the New York Knicks beat us as far as a trade offer. However, I think as far as young talent is concerned, I think that's where the Heat have the edge, especially without RJ Barrett on the table. If he was on the table, then it would probably be the Knicks. But without RJ Barrett on the table, you still have Tyler Hero for the Heat, who's available. And I think that he surpasses anyone else that the Knicks can throw in. He has more potential than anyone else that the Knicks can throw in. You also have an enticing piece like Nikola Jovic, who officially cannot get traded for 30 days, but you can still put him in a trade and agree to a trade. It just will not be finalized until the 30 days is over. You have a young center in your Omer Yurtseven, and you have the contract of Duncan Robinson to make money work. Now, when you look at the Knicks side, I assume that Evan Fournier will be in this trade because he has the same contract as Duncan Robinson, and you need that contract to match a Donovan Mitchell salary trade. So you can essentially say that Evan Fournier and Duncan Robinson will cancel each other out. And then you're looking at Tyler Hero, Omer Yurtseven, and Nikola Jovic, right? Maybe those three are like the biggest young assets that the Heat have to throw in. The Knicks would probably be Emmanuel Quickley, Quentin Grimes. Although if I was the Knicks, I would try to keep him because he's a stud. He's been tearing it up in Summer League. Obi Toppin, and then Cam Reddish. Now, looking at those pieces, I think Hero surpasses all of the other players that I named as far as upside and potential. He's already won Sixth Man of the Year. He's only 22 years old. And I think that, the thing about Danny Ainge is, although he does not really see eye to eye with Pat Riley, he really, really liked, Tyler Hero. As far as in 2019, he wanted Tyler Hero really, really badly in the draft. And the Heat took him at 13, and then they had to take Romeo Langford at 14. So I do think that, there is a possibility that Hero, obviously he's going to be involved, but there is a possibility that the Jazz could, accept Hero and they would like Hero as a return. But I think that you would have to throw in a little bit more. I think some draft picks as well might have to be thrown in, maybe 2 or 3 first-round picks, some swaps here and there. I do think that the Rudy Gobert, in a sense, was a good thing for Donovan, for the Miami Heat, the Rudy Gobert trade, because the Jazz got a lot of picks back, and I don't know if they're going to be looking for as many picks as they are for Donovan Mitchell as they are for Rudy Gobert, because you cannot really take on 15 picks for 2 players. Like, you can, but I think they didn't really get any tangible young assets in that Gobert trade apart from Jared Vanderbilt, who's really, really good, obviously, but as far as offensively, he does not really have the potential. He's really just like a really good defender. But in the Gobert trade, they got a lot of picks back. They didn't really get any young building blocks. Hero is not necessarily a franchise cornerstone, but he is a young building block that you can have, and he's probably a lot. He's the best young building block that they can probably get, because RJ Barrett is not on the table, and whoever else that the Knicks throw in does not really have the same potential and upside as Tyler Hero does. So that's, I think, where the Heat have the edge. It's going to be interesting to see, what happens. I think Donovan Mitchell would probably, I'm not being biased here. I think he wants to win, and I think that even if he goes to New York, I think that team is at best, I think that's a first or a second round exit. I don't think they're going to make any noise in the East. I think if he goes to the Heat, you cement yourselves as a team that can be contenders and maybe even the favorites to win the championship, and for sure to come out of the East. So I think if it was up to Donovan Mitchell, I believe he would choose Miami, but it's not up to him. It's up to the Jazz, because he hasn't really asked for a trade yet. He hasn't really gave his destinations yet. So that is interesting. Moving on to Kevin Durant, because there was a report a couple days ago. It might have been yesterday, but I think it was a couple days ago, saying that it was from Adrian Wojnarowski again, saying that the Heat had been the most aggressive team pursuing Kevin Durant. And I think that, this is something that a lot of people saw coming, because the Heat had not really done much in free agency so far. I think they were putting all their eggs into the getting Kevin Durant basket, and I think that that's what they're trying to do. Not Pat Riley, Andy Ellisberg, the Heat GM, met with Sean Marks in Las Vegas to discuss the whole situation. And I think yesterday the report came out from Woj saying that the Heat have been the most, determined / aggressive to get Kevin Durant on their team. It was interesting that shortly after that report came out, the Donovan Mitchell news broke out that the Jazz were essentially, putting him up as far as someone that they can, explore for trade. They were basically putting him up on the market. So that's interesting to see, But I think the Kevin Durant situation, I think that will be the Heat's number one option. I think obviously he's the better player in these two scenarios where you can get Donovan Mitchell or Kevin Durant. KD's the better player. He's the better talent. He's ready to win now. Obviously, he wants to win. He would fit exactly what the Heat need. He has size. His defense is a lot better than Mitchell's. Like, it's a no-brainer. If you had to pick one, you would pick Kevin Durant. But is he more attainable than Mitchell? I'm not sure, because, I think Mitchell is more attainable. Mitchell wants to go here. I don't really think there's many teams that really have young assets to throw at the Jazz, or picks that they really want. I think you kind of have need to have a combination of both. So I think really you're only fighting against one team in the Mitchell sweepstakes. It's basically the Knicks. For KD, you're going against the Raptors, you're going against the Suns. There was a 4-team trade put out by Bobby Marks, which I just saw, where the Nets get Donovan Mitchell, Mikal Bridges, and Miles Turner. The Suns get Kevin Durant. The Pacers get DeAndre Ayton, and then the Jazz get Ben Simmons, Cam Thomas, 5 first-round picks, and 3 swaps. So all those 4 teams could be involved in the Kevin Durant sweepstakes. And I do think that Donovan Mitchell is a more attainable piece to get, because I think that, like I said, you're fighting against lesser teams here, and I think that he's just, the value is a lot lesser than Kevin Durant's, obviously, because Kevin Durant is a top 5 player in the league. Now, the asking price that the Nets have is, I think, a little bit ridiculous, just because I don't think anyone is willing to tear up their future and give it to the Nets for Kevin Durant, who's 34 years old and who has a history of jumping ship when things don't really go right for him. So I don't really think that the Nets, I get why they would ask for a lot. Like, there was a report that came out where they asked for Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns and like 4 picks. That's ridiculous. Like, there's no way any team is giving you that and tearing and gutting their team just for one player who's 34 years old. And like I said, as good of a player as he is, there is some risk for trading and giving up your future for Kevin Durant. And I do think that Heat know this, which is why I think they're playing the long game. I think what they're trying to think is that eventually the Nets asking price will probably have to come down, because I think they're gonna realize eventually that no team is willing to gut their team and give away young cornerstones and bright future pieces in order to just land Kevin Durant on their squad. Like, I think they already know. The Raptors have said that they're taking Scottie Barnes off of the table as far as any trade talks are concerned. So you're already not getting Scottie Barnes, right? And then from the Suns, Devin Booker obviously is what you want, but you're not going to get him. For the Heat, even if you wanted Bam, the rule is there that you cannot, obviously it would have to be a 4-team deal and stuff like that. And I think if you're the Heat, I think you would want Kevin Durant to come play with Bam and Jimmy rather than giving up Bam and giving up Hero both in the process, because then you have KD and Jimmy. And I honestly don't think that team is winning a championship, even as talented as KD is and as good as Jimmy has been. You're still losing a big chunk of your defense. Your center rotation is now Dedmon and Yurtseven, which is probably the worst center rotation in the NBA without Bam there. So I think that if you're the Heat, you would want to pair up Jimmy and Bam along with another star. And that's where the Donovan Mitchell thing becomes interesting, because he's a lot cheaper. Like, the Jazz already know they're not really getting they're not getting Scottie Barnes if the Raptors were in the Donovan Mitchell sweepstakes. So they already know what the value is. They themselves said that they don't see him as a true number 1 option on a championship contender. So I think that it'll be easier to trade for Donovan Mitchell, but I think that Kevin Durant is obviously, would move the needle more, which is why I think the Heat are trying to go all in on him. And then if it falls through, then they're going to use, I think, Donovan Mitchell as a fallback option. Now, this is a dangerous game to play, because this could be a scenario where you just end up with neither of them. If you put all your eggs into the Kevin Durant basket, by the time if you don't get him, Mitchell might be already gone to a different team. If not, his value would be even higher. So it's a dangerous game to play if you're just putting all your eggs into one basket. But if there's any team that I trust, if there's any front office that I trust, it's Pat Riley. But yeah, that's basically the whole news and the situation that about what's going on with both KD and Mitchell. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. I'm very, very interested to see who you would rather have. Obviously we would rather have KD because he's the better player, but as far as what you would have to give up, how easy it would be to trade for both of them, like, which one do you see as more realistic for the Heat to get? And as far as the assets that you'd have to give up, who do you want to rather have on your team? So I'm interested to see your opinions down in the comment section below. So let me know down in the comment section below, which one would you rather trade for? And yeah, I'll see y'all later as always, man. Have a nice day. Thank you again for 2,000 subscribers. Peace.